Either the well was very deep, or she fell very slowly, for she had plenty of time as she went down to look around her and to wonder what was going to happen next. Well, since we don't fall slowly, that is all part of her fantasy world. But sometimes when things are crazy, it can actually feel like things are, going different speeds around us. I would use 2020 as the example. First, she tried to look down and make out what she was coming to, but it was too dark to see anything, and then she looked at the sides of the well and noticed they were filled with cupboards and bookshelves. Here and there she saw maps and pictures hung upon pegs. She took down a jar from one of the shelves as she passed. It was labeled Orange Marmalade, but to her great disappointment, it was empty. She did not like to drop the jar for fear of killing somebody, so managed to put it into one of the cupboards as she fell past it. Well, Alice thought to herself, after such a fall as this, I shall think nothing of tumbling downstairs. How brave they'll all think of me at home. That's a funny thing to say. I think sometimes little kids are not careful, and so they might tumble down the stairs a little bit. And this is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, right? How brave they'll all think of me at home. After such a fall as this, which what she's falling now is such a grand fall, right? So tumbling down a couple of stairs would be nothing. Why, I wouldn't say anything about it, even if I fell off the top of the house, which was very likely true. Down, down, down. Would the fall never come to an end? I wonder how many times I've fallen by this time, she said aloud. I must be getting somewhere near the center of the earth. Let me see. That would be 4,000 miles down, I think. For, you see, Alice had learnt several things of this sort in her lessons in the schoolroom, and though this was not a very good opportunity to showing off her knowledge, as there was no one to listen to her, still it was a good practice to say it over. Yes, that's about right, the right distance, but then I wonder what latitude and longitude I've got to. Alice had no idea what latitude or longitude was, or longitude either, but thought they were nice grand words to say. Presently she began again. I wonder if I shall fall right through the earth. How funny it'll seem to come out among people that walk with their heads downwards. The antipathies, I think. She was rather glad there was no one listening at this time, as it didn't sound at all the right word. But I shall have to ask them what the name of their country is, Please, ma'am, is this New Zealand or Australia? And she tried to curtsy as she spoke fancy, curtsying as you're falling through the air. Do you think she could manage it? And what an arrogant little girl she'll think me for asking. No, it'll never do to ask. Perhaps I shall see it written up somewhere. Down, down, down. There was nothing else to do, so Alice soon began talking again. Dinah'll miss me very much tonight, I should think. Dinah was the cat. I hope they'll remember her saucer of milk at tea time. Dinah, my dear, I wish you were down here with me. There are no mice in the air, I'm afraid. But you might catch a bat, and that's very much like a mouse, But cats eat bats. But do cats eat bats, I wonder? And here Alice began to get rather sleepy, and went on saying to herself in a dreamy sort of way, do cats eat bats? Do cats eat bats? And sometimes do bats eat cats? For, you see, as she couldn't answer either question, it didn't much matter which way she put it. She felt that she was dozing off, and had just begun to dream that she was walking hand in hand with Dinah, and saying to her very earnestly, now, Dinah, tell me the truth. Did you ever eat a bat? When suddenly, thump, thump, down she came upon a heap of sticks and dry leaves, and the fall was over. Alice was not a bit hurt, and she jumped up on her feet in a moment. She looked up, but it was all dark overhead. Before her was another long passage, and the White Rabbit was still in sight, hurrying down it. There was not a moment to be lost. Away went Alice like the wind, and was just in time to hear it say, as it turned a corner, "Oh, my ears and whiskers! How late it's getting!" She was close behind when she turned the corner, but the rabbit was no longer to be seen. She found herself in a long, low hall, which was lit up by a row of lamps hanging from a roof. There were doors all around the hall, but they were all locked. And when Alice had been all the way down the hall, down one side and up the other, trying every door, she walked sadly down the middle, wondering if she was ever to get out again. Suddenly, she came upon a 3-little-legged table, all made of solid glass. There was nothing on it except a tiny golden key, and Alice's first thought was, it might belong to one of the other doors in the hall. But alas, either the doors were too large or the key was too small. But at any rate, it would not open any of them. However, on the second time around, she came upon a low curtain which she had not noticed before, and behind it was a little door about 15 inches high. She tried the little golden key in the lock, and to her great delight, it fitted. Now, I'm going to stop here for just a sec. One thing that I like to do sometimes in my notebook or on the paper that I'm working on, if someone else is reading this to me, or if I'm listening to the story, as you may be listening to this now, sometimes it's actually fun to draw a picture of what you're hearing. So I might draw the 3-legged stool, for example. Okay, and if I draw the 3-legged stool, I'm not a great artist, and you don't have to be either. I'm sure you're much better than I am, but I would put the key right on it. Okay, and then I would probably do something like that, and I don't know, maybe like that. So that's my own key, that's my imaginary key that I did on the stool. And I might draw other stuff that I heard in here. I might draw, where I think the rabbit hole is, right? And then Alice is actually going into it, and I'm not really good with people, so I'm just gonna draw her like this and give her a pretty little dress and some shoes, I guess, and then smile, and then here's some hair for her, and then off she goes down the rabbit hole. So I might do something like that. Okay, so there are several things you could actually draw as you were listening to this. Some of you might draw the white rabbit. Okay, and you might draw him in his tuxedo or his waistcoat. I don't know. And his pocket watch. Again, this is going to be probably the worst rabbit drawing you've ever seen, but don't worry about it. We're not being a professional artist here. That's the good news. So here's his rabbit feet. Which don't really look like rabbit feet, but that's alright. And then here's his pocket watch. Okay, his pocket watch like that, and then I'll do it a loop or something so that you can do it. Maybe I want to put his hand up here so he's holding it actually. Anyway, and then he's anxious because he's late, so I'm gonna draw anxious eyes and a rabbit nose. No, some whiskers, and then this. So these are the different things I might be hearing. Now, I think you would never see another Alice in Wonderland rabbit that looks like this, because, well, it's my own special copyrighted version. But, again, sometimes, if you're listening to a story, it actually helps to draw what you're hearing. So you could even listen to this recording, and then you can pause it, and then you can draw what you heard, and then you can rewind it, or you can, unpause it again. You can actually end up with your own illustrated copy of Alice in Wonderland. Now, because Alice in Wonderland has no copyright anymore, it's public record, you can actually copyright your own copy of Alice in Wonderland, which would be really cool, and your own images. You're welcome to borrow mine, but I don't think you would necessarily want to borrow those. So, let's continue. So, however, the second time around, she came upon a low curtain she had not noticed before. Behind it was a little door, about 15 inches high. She tried the little golden key in the lock, and to her great delight, it fitted. Alice opened the door, and found that it led into a small passage, not much larger than a rat hole. She knelt down, and looked along the passage into the loveliest garden you ever saw. How she longed to get out of that dark hall and wander about among those beds of bright flowers and those cool fountains. but she could not even get her head through the doorway. And even if my head would go through, thought poor Alice, it would be of very little use without my shoulders. Oh, how I wish I could shut up like a telescope. I think I could, if only I knew how to begin, for you see, so many out-of-the-way things had happened lately, that Alice began to think that very few things indeed were really impossible. And I think that's a key statement, that Alice began to think that very few things indeed were really impossible. I believe this, actually, whether it's fantasy or whether it's real life. If you really want to do something, you really set your mind to something, then you have to work toward that. And there are very few things that you actually, can't end up doing. So that's a very good thing to keep in mind. That very few things indeed were really impossible. And I might write that down in my journal here. Very few things. My penmanship isn't the best, so you don't have to write it with your neatest handwriting. You just have to be able to read it. Were really impossible.